This is for entertainment purposes only. This short story is only for people over the age of 18.
I don't have a problem with hypnosis. I enjoy every moment of it. I remember being a 13-year-old girl, braces, acne, and weird things happening down below when I was first hypnotized. I was seeing some comedy show online where the host did the whole, seeing who in the audience is a good subject by trying to hypnotize everyone. There I was, before my parents' computer monitor, doing everything that funny man was saying and waking up and feeling amazing. That was the start of my problem that isn't a problem. I can thank online hypnosis videos for getting me through high school with all A's. It was thanks to hypnosis that I went out for the cheerleading squad, which eventually led to college scholarships. If it wasn't for hypnosis, I think college would have killed me, all the work, stress, pressure, and everything else. It was in college I met Brad. Brad and I were in the same classes trying to get our MBA, so we knew each other. One day in class I saw that Brad had a pocket watch. A real, on-a-chain, ticking dial pocket watch. Thank God I was wearing a bulky sweater because my nipples were so hard. I got to talking to Brad about it. Brad's grandfather gave Brad the watch years ago and Brad had lost his smartwatch, so he had that. Then I asked the question that probably started everything happening.
Have you ever wanted to hypnotize someone with it?
I asked, making sure not to bite my lip. I really wanted to be hypnotized. Those online videos were fine. The ones that helped me sleep were okay. The self-hypnosis sessions before studying were adequate. They weren't hitting my buttons for everything else. I wanted someone to take over my mind. Some other women would claim I'm a traitor to my gender for wanting to give up my mind. These people have never been hypnotized before. Not the way I wanted to be. I liked being put into a state of complete mindlessness. There are no worries, concerns, pressures, and fears. To give up my mind means I don't have responsibilities. It's almost like being a child again, where I didn't have any uncertainties and could just be. It is the most peaceful state I've ever been in or have ever imagined. Brad hypnotized me that weekend. He wasn't very good at it. Brad claimed he saw one video online and read a brief chapter in one book. It took much longer than I expected, with several slip-ups in speech and wording. The only reason why my mind did finally slip into a hypnotic state was because I really wanted to be in one. Brad, ever the gentleman, did nothing with me. That asshole. I was completely helpless. I would have done anything he wanted, but he just wanted me to enjoy my blitzed out state. I did enjoy it. God help me, I enjoyed it so much when Brad finally woke me up, I kicked him out of my room so I could get my vibrator and take care of how much I enjoyed it. Brad got better the second time at putting me under. The third time went faster and easier, and I could tell Brad had done more research. Soon it was almost every night Brad would hypnotize me. We would do our homework or study and then Brad would wake me up, feeling amazing. I had told Brad over and over again that I just wanted him to hypnotize me. That's what I said with my conscious mind. It took him a month to finally ask my subconscious mind what I wanted.
I want you to command me, control me, use me, and make me your toy.
I do remember saying, since Brad made sure I remembered everything under hypnosis. Brad didn't want me to do anything I didn't want to do while hypnotized. That polite fool. That night, Brad woke me from hypnosis and I was only wearing panties. After I kicked him out, I wasn't even wearing those. Then came the days near the end of the school year where I didn't kick him out and he watched. I had just aced my finals when Brad dropped me into hypnosis without warning and had me pleasure him. When he woke me up after he had finished, I had an orgasm so strong I nearly blacked out. I think that was when we officially decided we were a couple. Over summer break, Brad would hypnotize me over the phone. Working as a coffee girl that summer was utter humiliation from my high school former friends. So my parents weren't rich or wealthy enough for me to not work over the summer. Darn. I did have one thing they didn't, a boyfriend that could fulfill my wildest fantasies over the fucking phone. When our last year of college started, it was amazing from start to finish. Daily Brad would put me under, make me do anything that popped into his mind. Often it was help him study or work on homework together. Other times it was dance nude for him. I really liked that, having no control over my body when certain music played. Other days I found I just couldn't put on panties, and that was thanks to Brad's post-hypnotic suggestions. I loved finding my mind just couldn't let me do certain things, or I was helpless to doing things I wouldn't normally do. Brad had a phrase, something I was not consciously permitted to remember, that would make me have to give him a blowjob wherever we were. I couldn't help myself. I was on my knees, getting at his member and sucking it until he was done and not even considering where we were or who was around. Another phrase made me lust for Brad, as in I couldn't keep my hands and lips off him, all of him. I turned into a complete whore with just a few words that I never could remember. He called me up one morning and I didn't realize I went to class in a bikini until I saw Brad later that day. As time moved on, Brad got more creative with hypnotizing me. He had flashcards, the kinds that young children would use to learn numbers, and he would show them to me in order from 10 down to 1, dragging my mind into a hypnotic state. When the number 1 went away, so did my free will. At a New Year's party, Brad let the countdown for the ball drop my mind into a deeply obedient state. I've had to stop looking at the microwave because as soon as the number hit 10, my eyes and mind would lock onto those numerals. I wouldn't be able to look away. More than once, the microwave would drag my mind into a deeply obedient hypnotic state that I wouldn't be able to get out of until something else woke me up. I can't tell you how many cold meals I've had because of this. I was at a college basketball game with some friends, not Brad, and it was the end of the game, a real nail-biter. The game clock was running down and the crowd started chanting the numbers.
10,
And my mind locked onto the number like a call from God.
9,
And I could feel my mind starting to sink into that dark, warm place.
8,
My body had gone limp and relaxed as my brain was in a warm embrace.
7,
My eyes lost focus, not that I could consciously realize what I was seeing, as my breathing slowed and so too did my heart.
6,
My mind instantly blocked out everything but those descending numbers. All sight, all sounds, but the numbers were lost to me.
5,
My thoughts slowed to a frozen state, falling flat like a card, leaving me blank.
4,
The cotton that my mind was in was warm, comforting, and leaving every part of me free to relax.
3,
I was almost empty of everything. It is like draining a bottle of liquid and there's always that last drop in the bottom. That was what the inside of my skull was like.
2,
Anyone could have done anything to me right then and I would have done nothing to resist.
1,
Like, mindless, obedient. Our team won. My friends said we needed to celebrate. Then one noticed me and told me to wake up. It wasn't like how Brad would wake me up. She didn't know what was going on with me, and I don't think she cared when she told me to wake up. I was still partly hypnotized, but I needed to celebrate. I had to celebrate. My mind was completely focused on celebrating. I got so drunk that night. It was either the drinking or the hypnosis, but I didn't remember anything. I woke up in Brad's bed with an electrolyte drink and migraine medicine in view. I'm pretty sure that was the start of Brad worrying about me. He didn't try to stop me from doing anything. He was just hesitant to hypnotize me. He was also less energized to have me do things like strip naked, think I was a snake, and slither all over him. I really enjoyed doing that. Accidental hypnosis was not always easy to avoid. Crosswalks that counted down were a problem. Waiting for things to download became an issue too. One test that I was taking where there was a countdown clock of how much time we had left enthralled me at the end until the professor woke me up. Even the ticking of a clock, that slow, steady sound, has put me into a hypnotized state more than once. One time I was in the library looking for a book and it was in the 1000 section of the Dewey Decimal System, but I had started higher than that. As I ran my fingers on the spines of the books, the numbers flashing before my eyes, descending from 10, left me standing at the shelves, mind blank and drooling at the 1000 section. I still loved being hypnotized. Brad would flash up his 10 fingers, taking one down with each of my breaths. When his hands were fists, my mind was blank. There were multiple times he would speed count down from 10, and in less than 2 seconds I was completely under. Brad and I did so many things. Not all of them sexual. Even the sexual things didn't involve real sex. Brad was firm on this, which that command over himself was so sexy, where he refused to actually do the deed with me. He was saving himself for marriage. That's not to say we didn't do everything but have real sex. I don't think I slept with clothes on my entire senior year. I burned out 3 vibrators. Call me naive, but I thought baby oil was only for babies. I was wrong. When Brad and I graduated, it seemed like a good idea to get a place together. I found a job working for an advertisement company. Brad found a job working for the city in their PR department. I liked my job. Brad hated his. I wanted Brad to be happy. I made a mistake. I hypnotized Brad. I hypnotized Brad, but not very deeply. I got him under, but he fought his way out from the hypnotic state. Just because I loved being hypnotized doesn't mean everyone else does. Brad certainly didn't. It took a few days for us to talk about it. Brad felt he had to be awake and aware of things, to deal with problems when they came up. It was fine if the countdown on the dryer hypnotized me because he was there to save me. If he went under, who would be there for me if we were both blissfully entranced? The cracks formed. They got wider. A year out of college, and Brad had been looking for another job the whole time. One fell into his lap. It paid very well, it had great benefits, and it was in the middle of nowhere. I'd never even heard of McCall, Idaho. I couldn't even pronounce the lake it was on. Skiing in the winter, hiking in the summer, and a lake right there was so tempting to Brad. We talked. We split up. It was a trial period. We would see how we would do apart after a year. How did we feel? What did we think? Brad didn't want to send me out on my own. For a week he worked on my subconscious mind to resist the accidental hypnosis countdowns. I said it worked. It didn't work. I think I really wanted to be hypnotized. I wanted that blissful state of mind. Now more than ever, with Brad gone, I wanted that loss and hole in my heart to become the emptiness of my mind. It wasn't something that Brad was responsible for. It was me. I need to woman up and admit that despite the enjoyment of being blank and empty as an adult, I needed to be awake and aware. Desires versus responsibilities. I know this is long-winded, but I'm getting to the here and now. I just wanted to set up what just happened. What happened was I had moved into a smaller and cheaper apartment building. I was alone and looking for friends and maybe something more. It was the Sunday of the big football game. The biggest game of the year. My across-the-hall neighbors invited me over to party. I am not a football fan, but they said that didn't matter since it was an excuse to drink beer, eat unhealthy food, and yell at men for being stupid. See, my neighbors are lesbians. Jiwon, or just Ji, is third-generation Korean. I've seen her pictures and she looks exactly like she did in high school. Black straight hair, slightly rounded square face, and a very wide jaw. Ji figured she liked women over men in high school when she found she enjoyed seeing the women's volleyball team over the football team. Ji said once that she went to the football games to fantasize about the cheerleaders, and not the hulking and brutish guys. Lydia is new to the women-only scene. When I first saw Lydia, I thought she was some kind of fashion model. Her upper face of forehead and cheekbones are all on the same plane, but her nose is a perfect right triangle. Her jawline and chin are so sharp you could cut food with them. She's also thin, but not anorexic thin, think works out too much thin. For Lydia, being with another woman wasn't something she thought about growing up. Lydia knew she looked good and used those looks to get what she wanted, behind the scenes using her clever mind to cement her desires for when her looks weren't enough. Lydia had sex with men more than a few, and it always felt more transactional. When Lydia was at a Christmas party a little drunk and Ji was there also a little drunk, and they found themselves under the mistletoe. The pair kissed and had been together ever since. Those two really know how to make the most of our small apartments. They also know how to party. The game hadn't even started and I was stuffed with food and half drunk on beer. Did I care about the football game? No. I don't even know who was playing. Lydia had a drinking game. Whenever the TV showed a cheerleader, you drank. If the camera showed a cheerleader actually cheering, then you drank. If the TV showed a cheerleader and you could hear what the woman was saying, you finished your drink. It was fun to hang out with other women doing silly shit like that. Then it happened. The first half of the game was wrapping up. The TV showed a split screen of the action on the field and the clock. As soon as that number 10 appeared, I couldn't take my eyes off it. I felt my heart racing. Sounds dimmed. As that number 10 switched to 9. I felt it. God help me, I felt my mind descend like a hydraulic releasing, and my consciousness was dropping too. The 9 turned to 8 and my body felt relaxed, too relaxed. I was on the couch and I had just enough presence of mind to lean back so I didn't fall forward. I don't think I was blinking. I know I wasn't talking. When the number 7 popped into existence, my breathing slowed. I could feel my heart slow from one beat to the next, and what had been racing seconds before was now falling as my mind did. When 6 came onto the TV, everything else was gone. If G or Lydia had said anything to me at that point, it didn't make it from my ears to my brain. My eyes, my mind, my will was captivated by those decreasing numbers. I didn't even recognize the other numbers on the board being the score. All I cared about were those digits dragging my will down. At 5, my mind was cleared out. It seemed that number 5 stayed up on the board for a really long time. It didn't matter, not to me, that 5 just held there. My mind just held there too. It turned out one of the teams had called a timeout, which held the clock frozen and unmoving for several seconds. It held my mind frozen and unmoving for several seconds. With 4 on the monitor, my mind was in a soft, warm place. My body was deeply relaxed. I don't know what happened to the beer I had been holding, but in that instant I didn't care. Not that I didn't care. My brain just couldn't focus on anything as complex as "where's my beer?" At 3, it was like a plug in the bottom of my brain was pulled. What few thoughts, feelings, emotions and desires drained out of me. It was hard to think before, but at 3 it was impossible. There was nothing left inside my skull to focus on. I didn't even know that one team had run the ball out of bounds to stop the clock. I was so far gone that it didn't matter. I didn't even know it had happened. When the number 2 finally flashed before my eyes, if I could have whimpered at the release of what little I had left, I would have. My mind was so close to the bottom. Like an elevator when you know that you're almost there, and you feel that anticipation of coming upon your destination. Yeah, I was too far gone for that to occur to me. I just knew everything was relaxed. Everything was gone. I was gone. The number 1 on that clock came up, and I didn't even have the presence of mind to know it was the number 1. It was just a feeling, an instinct. I was a single breath away from completion. Drool was forming in my mouth even if I didn't know it. G and Lydia were staring at me, but I didn't know it. My face was completely slack, but I didn't even know it. When the number in my vision turned to 0, I was an empty shell. My body was more relaxed than ever when awake. My mind was drained empty, more than any drug could produce. I breathed, but that was the most action I was able to manage. I don't remember much of what happened. I know one of the other women were asking me things. I don't know what. When hypnotized, you can't lie or deceive, so whatever I said had to be the truth. I felt hands on me. They were all over me. In front of my face. On my lips. On my chest. Between my legs. I didn't react. I didn't have the mind to react. A voice said something, and I remember getting very hot, as in turned on kind of hot. I didn't want sex. I wanted to be sexy. Something in my mind was dragging me to my feet, and I started to dance. Music was coming from the TV, that much I remember. I remember dancing to that music. My body swaying, hands seductively touching myself, and legs making sure everyone knew that sex was part of the equation. Someone said something, and my hands started taking my clothes off. This meant my hands were touching my bare skin as my shirt came off, and so too did my bra. Swinging my chest around let me lower my shorts and panties. I think G and Lydia were saying something or cheering me on or something, but I do know I was naked before them before the music was done. I came back to the couch. I must have been told to do so because I didn't have the presence of mind to make my own decisions at that point. Then I was kissing and being kissed. Felt so good. Hypnosis sex is the best sex around. You're free to just feel without thoughts of if you pleased someone or they pleased you. Any touch or kiss could be magnified 100 times in a hypnotic state. I think I said something to this effect, since as soon as I stated this fact, one of the women said something back to me, and I was instantly howling in pleasure. My memory is fuzzy about all this, but I do remember saying,
I am deeply hypnotized.
Gives me a thrill every time I say that. One of the women said something, and I was awake and aware. Mostly. I looked over at G and was possessed with the urge to kiss her. I did. Oh Lord help me, I did without thinking. Felt so good. Not just my lips on hers, but our bodies pushed together. I then realized I was naked and G wasn't, and that could not stand as I helped her take her top off, giggling the whole time. Then Lydia behind me on the couch tapped me on my bare shoulder, and when I turned around, that stunning woman didn't have anything covering her body from waist up. Her perfect B-size breasts were uncovered. I covered them with my hands. I covered her lips with my mouth. I covered the rest of her body with mine. I know what had happened. I'm not stupid. I just love hypnosis. They'd hypnotized me to make love to them. I think knowing that turned me on more than their bodies or what I was doing to their bodies or what they were doing to mine. Knowing they'd hypnotized me to do this was a fantasy of mine that Brad never embraced. I was not attracted to them exactly. I just loved the act. I loved the feel of their bodies. Every kiss, every touch, every lick was magnified by the hypnotic state I was still in. I wanted not just to be hypnotized but kissed and touched and licked. If I had to stick my sexual appetites into a box, I would firmly put me in the bisexual category as long as it involved hypnosis. Sure, some people might have a problem with that, but do they have a problem with body chocolate, whips, or feathers? We all have some kinks that turn us on. Mine is hypnosis, and I don't care who's doing it. I think G called it quits first. She was on her back, propped up on the arm of the couch. She begged me to let her have a break. I ended up laying down on her naked body, my head on her gently rising and falling chest. Lydia behind me ended up draping most of her upper body on my rump. We must have looked like fallen over dominoes on the couch. The football game was still on as we got our breath back and felt the chill of the room dry our sweat. I had my head turned to the TV. We'd been at it for over an hour. I know that because the second half of the football game was almost over. Almost, but not quite. The TV showed the scoreboard, and like a compass near a powerful magnet, my eyes were locked onto the image of the number 10, and then it started counting down.
The end. This was a work of fiction. Any similarity between people, living or dead, is purely coincidence. This scenario did not, or should not, have happened in real life. Thank you for listening.